Well, I'm back. I would like to start out by reading a scripture. Matthew 25:23 says, "His Lord said to him, 'Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord.' As we experience the blessings of a new year, I am constantly reminded of the faithfulness of God." Being faithful, what does that mean? Well, it means trusting in Him and loving Him through all circumstances. It means following His commandments, even when we'd rather choose a different path. Our faithfulness to our loved ones means loving them even when it's difficult, caring for them even when they're ungracious or unkind. I guess you figured that this lesson today is on faithfulness. Being faithful to God. Next time we do the video, we will be in chapter 10. But the Lord kind of spoke to me every time I picked up the book and tried to do chapter 10. The Lord had other plans. What a surprise. Years ago, when I was a first Christian, I had a Bible study and I taught how to be a fat Christian. Now, I'm not talking about being large. The fat that I learned was F, being faithful, A, being available, and T, being teachable. A lot of us Christians don't think that all those matter. You have to be faithful. And that means even praying for the difficult people in your life. Now, as we look at Much Afraid in the book, think of all the things she had gone through. She went through doubt. She went through love. But she was faithful and available, and she wanted to be taught. She was what you call a fat Christian. Her faithfulness was to her family, but yet she followed the shepherd, and that was more important. Her more faithfulness to the shepherd, her availability to the shepherd, and being taught and pricked with thorn of love, and willing to take that pain. That was Much Afraid. Now, I know I'm speaking to somebody out there. Maybe you feel you're just not that type. We all are. We have to be focused. We have to listen to Him. Much Afraid, when she was kidnapped, if you remember right, she fought hard and wanted to get loose so she could go find the shepherd. And when she did get released and loose, she went out searching for the shepherd. She looked high and low. And even when she didn't find him and she thought she might have missed him, she still kept looking. She was faithful to her calling because He was calling her. She made herself available by searching for Him. She became teachable by willing to let go the hold that her family had on her to follow Him, to learn what He was trying to teach her. We need more fat Christians out there. We need more focused fat Christians. Now in church, we're going through the 23rd Psalm. And my grandma's favorite psalm was the 23rd Psalm. And I love it. I didn't then, but I do now. But her thing of saying was, "The Lord is my shepherd. He is all I want." And sometimes she would say, he is everything I want. And then sometimes she'd say, I want nothing but him. Because that was my grandma. Now, it doesn't tell in the book a lot of things about Much Afraid, except her journey. But her journey is deeper than the book goes. If you really think about it, her journey is because she has to be faithful enough to trust him. I mean, this is a shepherd. He's telling her all these things, and then he takes her so far, and he leaves her. I had that experience when I was dead for 6 minutes and I went to heaven. I felt abandoned when he sent me back. I felt like he didn't love me. He didn't want me anymore. And I'm sure that's what Much Afraid felt. And I think I understand it more now than I did then when I was teaching it before. It wasn't that he didn't want me or he abandoned me. He was going to prepare a better place for me. And he needed me to pave the way. He wanted me to come back, and there was more work for me to do. The Lord is my shepherd. That I'll never deny. No matter what. He is everything I need and want and could possibly ask for. Do I get all my prayers answered? No. Do I blame God for it? No. Because he knows what I really need. If I'm praying for something and it's not what he feels I need, I'm not going to get it. I know that. He sees ahead. And in his time, he will answer that. Probably far better than you could ever imagine. Because that's who my God is. Is he your God too? I hope so. And if not, I'm going to ask you the same thing my minister asked. Why not? What is keeping you from being much afraid with a name change as we go further into the book? Remember, she gets a name change. We all get name changes. We all get held high in his honor. He is worthy of our praise and worship. And he welcomes us no matter what we have done in our past. Much Afraid was disformed. She had a lot of disfigurements in her body. But Jesus looked upon her as a precious piece. He didn't turn his face like, ooh, look at her. He looks deeper than the outside. He looks always on the inside. Our insides are beautiful if we just release them and let them go. There's a lot of lessons that Much Afraid has taught us on her journey. Now, I'll be back in 2 weeks with chapter 10. Read it. Soak in it. And your homework for this week, or these next 2 weeks, ask God what he wants you to do for him. Because, doing his will and his work is more satisfying than even going to a job every day. Unless, when you go to that job, you can witness to people or work with Christians. So if you haven't made him your shepherd, again I ask you, why not? What is keeping you? And I've probably asked this 100 times during the year, 2 years we've been doing these videos. What is keeping you? What kept Much afraid? What was her name? Much afraid. She was afraid of change. But when she met the shepherd, it was just like everything just opened up and she wanted that. Are you yearning for him? He's yearning for you. The Lord is my shepherd. He's everything I want and need and have. Claim him today. You'll be glad you did, because he's the best thing that could ever happen to a person. So like I said, in 2 weeks, we'll be back. We'll start with chapter 10. And, we'll get there from there. So until 2 weeks from now, I bid you love, happiness. May God's face shine upon you. May he give you peace. And if you haven't made that decision, make it. You'll be glad you did. Until next 2 weeks.